Hello and welcome, I'm Raziel. Now, as of yesterday's video, I said that when Games Workshop do something well, it needs to be talked about. And when they do something bad, it needs to be talked about. And when it's, especially if it has to be pretty much on one of the end of the extremes here. Very good or very bad. And with the Mechanica stuff, which I said was cheaper than the Mechanicum stuff for 40k, Games Workshop might be turning over a new leaf. Now, I'm not holding my breath. Their Blood Angels was appalling. Like, that release was absolutely disgusting. And there's no defense for that. The way they changed the Sanguinary Guard models and lore. By the way, they had to change the lore for the Blood Angels to have Primaris Sanguinary Guard. No one kicked up about that, surprisingly. And then we have this, the new Warhammer 40k Killteam. I've got to say, it looks pretty good. Now, first things first, when it comes to Games Workshop, you need to talk about the price. Before we go into the models, let's talk about the price. Games Workshop starter sets tend to be £67.50. There's the Age of Sigmar one. And there's the 40k one. As you can see, £67.50 each. And I've got to say, that's a pretty good price for this kit. It makes it the second cheapest starter set, as far as I'm aware. Skirmish set, I should say. Judge Dredd Exodus being the Judge Dredd being the cheapest, and this one coming next. Well, Judge Dredd, I've got to say, the thing that makes Judge Dredd better than this is that the book, you get a full rule book, right? I think there's very little excuse not to have a full rule book, even if it's just paperback and just the rules and no lore. It would be far better than this. And also, being Games Workshop, the data sheets you're going to have to buy another book just for the data sheets. Again, it's a bad thing. However, we are going to talk about this box as a whole and not really bring anything else up. Again, 3 rules, 3 data sheets should be an absolute must for any wargaming company right now. This box isn't as good as Showdown and Retribution, but as a skirmish game box, this is done very well. And if it is £67.50, which I hope it is, I would say this is a very good direction for Games Workshop to continue going in. Now, the thing is what always put me off Killteam is that you're basically using an infantry squad. That's all you're using. You're not using anything else. And so there wasn't much diversity or variation. In a skirmish game, I think there needs to be lots of that. You're telling a story, and that's why you have a skirmish game. These, to me, are the most narrative-driven games you can play. And with the 2 factions you get inside, I was going to say armies, but 7 people, not really an army. You get that. You get lots of diversity. This is a very diverse range of models you're getting for your box. Again, if this is £67.50, I cannot complain. I really cannot. Like I said, my basic complaints are what Games Workshop should be doing anyway at this point. 3 data sheets, 3 rules. But when it comes to the models, this is what I would expect a 40k skirmish game to look like. And I would love to see this done with other factions, the Eldari, the normal Chaos Space Marines. Not just have their basic their basic units there. These storied units, these different models, these different, they just look different, and you can name them and you can tell a story with them. As you can see with all the Space Marines, they're all different, even though they still look like Space Marines, which is unfortunate. But each one tells a very different story with each one. You have 7 different models. They're not repeating poses. Even the running pose is different. There's a shocker for you. But again, these are all unique models for this game. Apparently they're the Space Marine heroes, and I think they might be. I mean, if they are, whatever. If you got those and you spent all that money on blind boxes, I really don't have much sympathy for you. I'm sorry. They're a gamble, and I'm not a big fan of them. Okay? And if you look at the Play Marines ones, again, look. You've got a very varied unit there, which a lot of them look different and just strange, and each one tells its own unique story. This, to me, is what a skirmish game should be. You should be able to tell stories with your unit. Each person being basically their own unit and telling that story. I can imagine this guy just running. I don't know what has he got there, little robot arm. Like this guy running to just sort of secure some information, or this dude here is running towards the objective to plant his icon. They are telling a story. The other thing is, which makes this particularly good, is the models look balanced. This looks like two balanced factions within the single game. You have 7 Space Marines each. Okay, technically Plague Marines, but you know, Space Marines. And they pretty much have their own counterpart within each one. Melee here and a melee here. You have your heavy weapon there. You have your heavy weapon there. You have your cap. Even the 2 leaders, I assume this one's a leader, have a very similar weapons. They have the plasma gun, he has his plague sword, and he has a power fist. The only real one is here, the sorcerer here. I know he's got another name, but I'm going to call him a sorcerer. Is probably the only one that kind of stands out and may look like the actual Plague Marine side may be slightly overpowered compared to the others. So, but honestly, like I said, this is not something I could really complain about. Maybe because I do prefer Death Guard. However, this is, to me, looks like a move in the right direction from Games Workshop. It looks like a proper skirmish game. You have a variety and diversity of models there, which are absolutely fantastic. And if it is £67.50 as the same price as the other starter sets, there is very little to complain about. Even the price isn't worth complaining about. There's a starter set. Like the starter handbook, I think it should have been a full rule book and should have the data sheets inside. But that's what Games Workshop does. And I look, honestly, I don't like this. I really don't. I prefer having a full rulebook. And every other company giving you a full rulebook or having the full rules and data sheets for free would improve Games Workshop stock in a lot of the community's mind. I'm talking about the wargaming community here, not 40k. And then there's the terrain. Instead of just jamming you full of, you know, basic plastic bulky models, you've got this very simple MDF. Again, this is good for a skirmish game, because skirmish games are quick. They're easy to play, easy to do, and quick to build. They are very, very fun games for that reason. They're very short, and if you've got just this basic terrain and just the MDF, you're going to have a lot of fun. And you could do them in lots of different ways. As well, you're not just stuck with what they're giving you here. You can do them lots of different ways. Like you do little tiny X's with these guys. Oh, we'll just see what can happen. So, I've got to say, this looks like Games Workshop might be going in the right direction, but again, this is Games Workshop we're talking about, unfortunately. But this does look good, and this looks like what a skirmish game should look like. Diverse models, easily assembled terrain, and quick to play. And a relatively low price. Again, $67.50 is a good price for this box. And it's not going to be something I'm going to complain about, given that, you know, most other skirmish games are around about £100. And that's it. And you don't need anything else other than this box. This is one thing I like about skirmish games. You don't need to build massive armies for them. He says, building massive armies for Wild West Exodus. It's still not the best. There's so many flaws with the box itself. This is not a review, but this is just a quick overview of what I think. And Games Workshop seem to have done a good job here and literally doing what needs to be done. Anyway, there you go. Thanks for watching. Hope you all have a lovely day. And I hope to see you again tomorrow in the next video. And I'll catch you then. If you wish to save money on your wargaming, don't forget to click down on Whaling Games, as that does help the channel. You get 20% off up to 20% off wargaming and free delivery after £20. There is Forbidden Planet for comics, DVDs, mangas, etc, etc, etc. My comics, my merchandise, Skyforge, never forget Skyforge, and finally Patreon, because business. Bye bye.